Hey everyone, in this video we're gonna be breaking down the super recent gameplay between Magnus and Stoyanovsky, played in the Chess Olympiad. But before we dive right into the action, I just wanted to let you know that today we released my London system course. Will be the first link into the description, and now you can also get it on a sale. So for only 27 euros, you can get 150k words, all the chapters explained in great depth, and later on, if you want, you can upgrade it to the video format. So with that being said, let's just dive right into the video. So we're not gonna be talking that much about the opening specifically, but I'll still try to grab your attention when something interesting is going on. I think the key idea of this video is to really try to focus on the upcoming middle games with the isolani or the isolated queen pawn if that's easier for you. So after d4, d5, Magnus started with the bishop to f4. Personally, in my course, I'll start with knight f3. I think the only reasonable idea to play this move order is if you want to be meeting c5 with d4, and that may not be so accessible for all the London system players. And that's why I personally start with knight f3. But after bishop f4, e6, we see pawn to e3, knight f6, knight f3. Now black goes for the quick bishop to d6. And Magnus plays the move knight b2 d2, which is also the main recommendation in my course. In my course, we also have an alternative with knight e5 as well. And the reason why the super common bishop g3 move is not effective here is because it gives black many ways to get a reposition. One of them would be castle, knight bd2, c5, and after c3, they get an additional option instead of playing knight c6, transposing to the super well-known main lines, just to play the move, queen to c7. After bishop to d3, black can go knight bd7, they're ready to break with e5, and once they get that push, I can assure you that the position will become really dull. So in order to avoid that, it's a bit more clever to start with this knight b2 d2 move. And we have to allow this Turkish structure. That's why I like to call it. The bishop takes on f4, pawn takes. The point is that if they're trying to achieve like the same thing by going castle, and now they're playing c3, c5, we get an additional option to meet this queen c7 idea by going bishop takes on d6, and after queen takes, we have knight e5. Ready to support it with f4 on the next move, and white has a very nice edge. So more critical for black is to go for bishop takes on f4, pawn takes on f4, and now they could either castle or go for the immediate c5. In this game, Magnus's opponent went for c5, and after dc, black has this sort of common little trick to play queen c7, regaining the pawn. We see g3. This is just a very nice and simple way to protect the pawn. Queen captures on c5, bishop develops to d3. That's where the bishop is the most active, keeping an eye onto the enemy king. We see queen b6, hitting the b2 pawn, knight b3. Castles by both sides, and now black goes for knight a6, stepping away from like the standard knight c6 move. But the idea is to trade off the knights with knight c5. We see c3, just a nice little useful move. Bishop to d7, with the idea to trade off the bad bishop. And in this Berkish structure that we're playing, we can basically guide ourselves with one simple rule. So as long as the bishops are on the board, white is clearly better. This guy is just way more active, controlling both sides of the board, especially the king side, while the enemy bishop kind of has a hard time entering the game, being restricted by these kind of pawns usually. So with the bishops on the board, white is better. Only idea that you'd really need to remember and guide yourself with. And that's why Magnus just went a4, controlling that b5 square, avoiding the bishop trade. We see knight c5, get a trade of knights, and now we get to establish our strong knight on the d4 square. We see a5, but after rook to e1, queen to b6, hitting the b2 pawn, can simply protect with queen c2. To be honest, I think queen d2 or queen e2 were also two very sensible moves, but he chose c2. And after rook to e8, you can clearly notice that there's a huge difference between the bishops, and now I just start slowly building up the pressure with rook e5, bishop c6, now queen e2. His idea is to try to triple down on the e file, and there will be also like f5 ideas to break in this position. This. So black 197 hitting the rook. Rook steps back, and now knight c5. Not only creating a positional threat of going knight takes on d3, eliminating our strong bishop, but also threatening bishop takes on a4, because that pawn is undefended. But Magnus has a small tactical trick in mind, playing bishop c2, covering the a4 pawn, and now the main point is that the b2 pawn is poisoned. You can even stop the video and try to find the winning move for white here, because we can go for bishop takes on h7, and we end up picking up the queen because of the check. So for this reason, black played g6, blocking the diagonal and reinforcing queen takes on b2 threat. But now we can simply play the move b3. Yes, the c3 pawn is a bit weak, but there's no way for black to attack it, so that's still pretty good for us. Black goes knight e4, and I think taking on e4 was interesting as well. Definitely playable, but Magnus likes to keep the tension more and plays the move rook to d1. And after rook ac8, it's time to show one of the main ideas of the Berkey structure. We just start expanding on the king side. Idea to just push the pawn all the way to h6, and then we're gonna be having a lot of checkmating ideas against the enemy king. We see e5 in the game. Black already felt like, okay, we just can't sit tight and wait. Cannot allow the world champion to build up with h5, h6, and then create mating ideas on g7. So black is looking for active counterplay. We're going e5. We see pawn takes e5, rook takes. Queen to g4, hitting the enemy rook. Rook e8, and now rook de1, creating a big threat of queen f4, followed by f3, and then just winning a piece. So black felt the need to break the pin with knight f6. And after queen f4, we get into like a really instructive, typical endgame, where queen and two minor pieces against the isolated d pawn. And white is slightly better, and Magnus just wins this in super convincing fashion. See queen c5, queen to f4, hitting the knight. Keep in mind, queen c3 does not work because after we take, the knight is defended, and black went for the move knight d7 instead. Now, we need to protect that d2 pawn, and in case black tries to repeat, we don't need to go for the draw, but we can just keep on adding the pressure on the queen side with b4. And after something like pawn takes, queen d6, we can grab on c6. I know, pretty controversial decision because the bishop doesn't really look like it's doing much at the moment, but sometimes we have to make these things in order to be able to make progress. It's a pretty complex topic. No need to go super in depth now with it. So, thing is, white can take. Main point is that if they take with a pawn, we can go a5. We have the outside passer. Material is equal, but white is completely winning. If they're taking with a queen, that's a bit better, but we're still much better, close to winning after bishop b3, queen d4. Idea is to simply push the pawns. And once again, thanks to the outside passer, white should be winning these endgames. And please notice that the knight is really struggling against the bishop in these kind of endgames. And this should make you think twice before going into your next game, developing your bishop to g4 and randomly taking on f3. Okay, just think about this game for a bit before you're doing that. So, after queen d2, knight e5 was played. We see queen e3 hitting the knight, queen d6 protecting. Now time to also expand on the king side. Idea is to push h6 and create a mating net. Can never really take that pawn really because of queen g5. We get to regain the pawn and the enemy king has been weakened in the process. So after h5, queen f6 was played, threatening knight g4. That's why bishop to d1 gets played, covering that square. And now bishop d7 is trying to activate. But now h6 works super well. Already have a huge threat of going f4. Imagine they play knight back to c6. End up trading, play something like queen b6, and we already have a lot of mating threats thanks to the back ranker. So now black felt the need to go g5 and eliminate that dangerous pawn, but this is simply gonna give white winning position after knight f3. For instance, if they're trading, we can exchange the h6 pawn for the isolated one, but we're completely winning because our bishop is so much more active, hitting the pawn on b7, threatening queen e7, and this is just completely winning for white. In the game, knight g4 was tried, hitting the queen. But after the strong move, queen a7, white is winning a pawn. Queen a6, queen b7, knight f6, queen to b8 check, king g7, and now Magnus plays an amazing move to re-centralize the queen and going queen e5. g4 is forced, and now knight e4 is the best move. Queen g5 would have been really tempting, but the issue is that the knight gets trapped after the trade in h6, so this would actually lose. And knight e4 is much better. Centralizing. We see queen to c1, hitting the bishop, and now white simply sidesteps using another small tactical trick. If you take the bishop, there is queen g5, winning back the piece, and white keeps a winning position because the enemy king is just way too weak, and for instance, the game can continue like queen e1, king give a check, bishop e8, pick up another pawn, but in these endgames, pawns are like already really important. Black can try out some moves to go for the perpetual, but after queen c5, check king j, knight f5, notice that the queen is protecting f2. We have threats such as queen d4, queen g7 mate, and white is completely winning. Black has no counterplay. So in the game, black tried to stop this queen g5 motif by going h6. But after bishop c2, white is once again in full control. We see queen d2, and Magnus plays super instructive move. So notice that knight f5 would be a great idea in this position. But the issue with it is that there is bishop captures on f5, and after bishop takes queen d1, black is getting a lot of counterplay connected with queen f3. So in order to get knight f5 successfully, we need to trade off bishops, and that's exactly what Magnus does. And after queen to g5, we have a strong position, everything is placed optimally, just time to expand. So b4, that's what he does. So after b4, black would have also taken and then grab, but b5, yes, we're down a pawn, technically speaking, but the b pawn is also queening, so that's just completely winning for us. And in the game, black went for bishop takes on a4, and now white took. And after bishop d1, we'll see black trying to get some counterplay, but now after queen e7, this is a super strong move, threatening knight e6, because the pawn is pinned, and then we just get to force a mate. And black just tries to go for these complications with queen h1 check, but nothing really works here. White is completely winning in many ways. Not gonna dive too deeply in what could have happened if any side would have played better. And after knight takes, taking on g4 is also fine, but Magnus just likes to get a second queen. I mean, can't really blame him for that. So after knight e5, king e3, well, queen f3 looked pretty tempting, but after king d4, strong move, centralizing, queen f4, king d5, white just wins. If you try to check me on d2, take the knight, that's just game. So queen f5 was tried, but giving the world champion the turn, having two queens on the board will normally not end well. And after queen f8, queen a6, f6, white is just in full control now, bringing the queens, dancing around the board. After king d4, white is just completely winning. Game still continued for a bit. After check, queen e4, king c4. Black tried to hang on, but after f3, some checks were given, but it was finally time to resign for black after queen to f4 check, because king h4 would have been running into queen e1, and after king there, queen e3 would have been a checkmate. So I hope you guys enjoyed this game. If you're interested to learn more about the London system, you can check out my course. Will be the first link in the description, and you can get it while it's still on an introductory sale. So thanks again for making it this far into the video, and I'll see you around on the channel. Take care.